The Mandalorian Chapter 14 surprised us all last week when Din and Grogu reached Tython immediately after being told to go there. This season's structure has very much been like a main quest episode, then a side quest, then a main, and so on. But the kidnapping of the child made things seem like they were barreling towards the conclusion. Chapter 15 surprised me again by slowing things down. We had another side quest, but I don't mean that in an annoying, it was filler way at all. The Believer was written and directed by Rick Famuyiwa, who directed chapters 2 and 6 last season, and my reaction to this new episode felt nearly identical to The Prisoner. It started out and I was a little unsure of it, but as the episode went on, I started pumping my fist. We got into the good stuff. I wound up liking this episode a lot, and it had such an uphill battle to win me over, but Famuyiwa achieved what I thought would have been the impossible. He made me care about Mayfeld. Last episode, they announced they were going to break him out to find Moff Gideon, and I rolled my eyes. I did not like Mayfeld and his try-hard crew from Season 1, which is the point. We're supposed to see how far Din has come since working with them. He used to be like them, but I still wasn't clamoring to pull any of them back into the narrative. I'm glad I had a week to get used to that idea because Mayfeld is picked up right at the start. Another thing I had to get used to was Boba Fett's new paint job. I'm used to the armor being all beat up, and now he's got a fresh coat of paint. I'm seeing this as kind of a mirror to Din getting his shiny new Beskar suit in Chapter 3. His armor lost its integrity, and he built it anew. Likewise, he had lost his integrity, but rescuing Grogu from the Imperials was his way of at least starting to wipe his moral slate clean. Boba Fett also has an insanely checkered past, but Chapter 14 showed us a different and more noble side to him, so I think the fresh paint job could be part of him turning over a new leaf. It's fitting because I see this episode as being about atonement and seeing yourself for who you really are. Mayfeld used to be part of the Empire, and Cara Dune certainly doesn't let him forget that fact. He says he can find the coordinates to Moff Gideon's cruiser by accessing an Imperial terminal on the planet Morak. He runs through some of their operating procedures, and he's accused of still being on their side. In the end, he and Din have to infiltrate the base together by disguising themselves as Rhydonium shipment drivers. Din gets around the no-helmet rule by donning a new one, that of an Imperial, which leads to an interesting conversation. First of all, let me say that I'm glad this episode focuses so heavily on The Mandalorian. There have been so many exciting guest characters this season. Boba Fett is straight up on the team right now. It's cool, but I don't want Din to be overshadowed. So I appreciated this time to just check in with him in an episode where his personal stakes are at an all-time high. High enough that he starts bending the rules. As they drive through an impoverished village, Mayfeld starts getting philosophical, claiming it doesn't matter who ultimately rules the galaxy. Someone does the ruling, and others are being ruled. He says the Mandalorians of old were no different from the Empire, and the only difference between people is where they were born and how they were raised. But everyone's principles start to break down in the name of survival, and he points out Din's desperation to save Grogu, leading him to swap helmets. His argument is that all people are the same. It's very similar to DJ's argument in The Last Jedi, that it's all a machine and the only person you can look out for is yourself. All that's important is making sure that you're able to sleep at night. And then the episode turns into a video game for 5 or 6 minutes. It's an exciting action sequence that I assume was filmed in the volume and looks pretty awesome. Their vehicle is attacked by pirates who want to blow up the shipment, but they survive and are greeted by the cheers of stormtroopers. I'm curious about these, quote, pirates though. Pirates generally want to steal, not simply sabotage. I get more of an impression that these are natives to Morak trying to get the Empire off their planet, but they're standing in the way of Din's mission and they have to be removed. They're definitely aggressive and on the attack, and there isn't exactly time to explain to them what's going on, but it's a fine line Mando is walking here. Obviously, he wants to get Grogu back, but how far is he willing to go? Will he be able to sleep at night when it's over? This isn't really addressed further in the episode, so maybe they were simply pirates, just inserted into the story for some action. Din and Mayfeld reach the Imperial base as heroes. The terminal they need is with all the Imperial officers, but Mayfeld doesn't want to go in because his former commanding officer is in there. So Din bends the rules even further, because he has to remove his helmet and show his face to the enemy of all people. He really is desperate. I do think it's a little odd that the terminal has to scan your face, but just any face? Like, there's no facial recognition, it just wants to make sure you have a face at all. Maybe this is the Star Wars equivalent of click all the pictures with a truck in them so we know you're not a robot style of security. I love how vulnerable and uncomfortable Din looks without a helmet, and he's clearly floundering, so then Mayfeld comes to his rescue facing his own fears. And this is where the episode gets really good. The whole sequence was so tense, and shout out to Richard Brake who knocked his role as General Valen Hess out of the park, and to Famuyiwa for directing these scenes so well. It felt very Tarantino, specifically Inglourious Basterds. I've seen that comparison thrown around a lot, but it's accurate. You just know the violence is coming. You can feel Mayfeld breaking. We just don't know how, when, and why it will inevitably happen. Mayfeld has to save Din from being capable at all without his helmet by proposing a toast to Operation Cinder, which was part of galactic history after the Battle of Endor. The Empire just started senselessly destroying worlds and cities in retribution. It caused a lot of Imperials to finally abandon their stations, and it sounds like Mayfeld may have been one of them. His commanding officer seemingly ordered the deaths of his own men to destroy a city, which tracks for what Cinder was like, and Mayfeld isn't happy about revisiting that memory, realizing that in the end, the Empire didn't view him or his friends as important at all despite their service. They wound up being dead bodies, just like the civilians they were fighting against. Hess says they're going to use the Rhydonium Din and Mayfeld brought in to help create chaos that will make Operation Cinder look like nothing. They want to keep the New Republic in disarray until the Imperial Remnant and the so-called order they represent are welcomed back with open arms. And that's what does it. Mayfeld's face in that scene, the looks between him and Din, it's all so good. That scene is fantastic. From there, it's a pretty straightforward action sequence until they escape, and Mayfeld destroys the Rhydonium to make sure a new Cinder can't happen. At least not with the material he helped deliver, because we all need to sleep at night. For all his bluster and tough guy talk, he has a heart to some degree. He might claim it makes no difference who does the ruling, but he knows the Empire has no business in charge. They want to provide order and safety from chaos and destruction and death that they themselves are working to create. The New Republic may not be perfect, but at least they care. During the Slave One's escape, it's being tailed by 2 TIE fighters, and when I tell you I threw my arms in the air and cheered when that rear hatch opened, fan service to the max, but come on, we all wanted to hear that seismic charge detonation again. I half expected and kind of wanted Finnick to comment on how awesome it sounded. When they land, Mayfeld willingly offers to go back to his prison sentence. No more snark to Cara, just resignation that, maybe he deserves to serve his time. But Cara lets him go, which is a nice moment, a little fast and loose with the forgiveness in my opinion. His character really grew on me, but he still did some bad things for which there should be consequences. But this is also Star Wars. Darth Vader can wreak havoc across the galaxy for a quarter century and then make one good decision at the end of his life, and he's allowed to go to Force Heaven. So okay, Mayfeld walks away a better man than he was the day before. With the coordinates to Gideon's cruiser acquired, we get one final fist-pumping scene. Din gets his Liam Neeson Taken moment, but instead of talking about his certain set of skills, he just throws the Moff's own words back at him. But the slight change to, "He means more to me than you will ever know." I was pumped up just from how badass of an "I'm coming for you" moment that was, but also just Din acknowledging that yeah, he is saving his son. He loves his son. He's been calling Grogu his mission or his quest all season, but this isn't about getting the child so he can finish some task on his to-do list. He's getting the kid because that is his kid. Great stuff. So yeah, the stage is set for the season finale, an assault on an Imperial cruiser. I'm very excited. This season has been great so far, and I can't wait to see what they leave us with in only one more week. But that's going to be it for now. We'll be back tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern to do a live stream and talk about Chapter 15 even more, and to take your questions, so tune into that. Until then, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our Mandalorian coverage, follow us on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and consider checking out our Patreon page where we're releasing audio commentaries for this entire season. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.